Good morning, everyone. I would like to call the April 3rd, 2024 Special City Council meeting to order. I would like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through the live stream on the city website. I would like to remind council to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear you. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor. Councilmember Kendrick.
Here.
Councilmember Krupa.
Here.
Councilmember Lilienthal.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Males.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, sir. The invocation will be by Dale Dillman of Calvary Chapel 412, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Council Member Carol Kendrick. Will you please stand?
Well, let us pray. Our Father, we come this morning, we come humbly before you, asking for your wisdom on this meeting, this very vital, important meeting. And Father, we're looking for a city here, the city of Hemet in particular, that is one that is safe, one that is honoring to you, one where our citizens look to you for guidance as well. Thank you for the city council and for all those who are here beside the city council. We seek your wisdom one more time, and we pray now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is a 3-minute per person time limit for items on the agenda. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our city manager, Mark Prestwick.
At this time, Mayor, it would be appropriate to receive any public comment on items on the agenda. And then we can begin the workshop.
Mayor, there is no registered public comment.
Thank you, sir. You may start, Mark.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. I have a handheld mic that I'm going to use most of the time, so if we could go to the PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to the library. It's been about 10 months, almost to the day, literally, since we gathered to discuss building our FY 23-24 work plan for the City Council. It does feel like a long time ago, but in many respects, it really isn't very long. Our workshop today will be interactive. We're going to get started with our first exercise in about 15 minutes or less. And I guess I'm in a little zone here. I'll make sure this is continuing to work. One of the attributes of exceptional city councils is taking the time to get organized and plan ahead. And fortunately, this year we have an additional 60 days to do that moving forward. We also want to take inventory on the work that we've done over the last 10 months, 12 months, as we set the table for FY 24-25. I decided to consult a great philosopher, the internet, for some inspiration this morning before we get started. And what the internet told us, strategic planning is a delicate balance between dreaming big and not being able to afford it. We might add in a little capacity to that quote, but I think it's good guidance as we think about and set the table for today. So the focus really is our focus entirely today is beginning to prepare that next work plan and set realistic priorities for the coming year. We're going to discuss how these priorities fit within the organization's capacity and yes, likely budget constraints that we'll have moving forward. And we'll close today with a discussion about how we're going to measure and monitor progress. So this is our workshop agenda. We're going to begin with, as I said, with a recap of last year's workshop. The first exercise is to talk about some of those accomplishments over the last year. We're going to take time to review the City Council's vision and mission statements. We did that last year. We'll do it again this year. So we'll pause and receive any feedback that you have. From time to time, it may be appropriate to, if something needs a little bit more work, we know it is there. We may have, we have a bike rack over here. I want to thank Kathy where's Kathy? For all the artwork up on their bike rack here, but this is really a time management tool for us. We're going to discuss the strategic plan goals. So last year we did this as well, where we looked at the overarching goals. They're in the PowerPoint. We'll take a look at those in a few minutes. But the overall goals, there are 5 of them that guide the work that we do. And today we're working on building 12-month action items or a work plan for FY 24-25. That's where the meat and potatoes come together. We expect to get to that exercise at about 11 o'clock today. And as I mentioned, we'll wrap up with some discussion about the monitoring and the reporting. So some proposed ground rules as we begin the engagement today. And these 5 items: listen to understand, assume good intent, seek consensus, stay focused, and indefinitely enjoy the conversations. Any amendments to these ground rules? Do these work for the City Council as we move forward? Okay. Maybe Councilmember Krupa has an amendment. Okay. We'll emphasize that. We'll put it in bold next time. Here's the bike rack. Again, this is a time management tool. We want to jot down things that you may be thinking of that are appropriate for a future conversation. So we'll track those items as well. First, taking a look backwards at where we've been. Again, I mentioned we were last planning that fiscal year 23-24 work plan on June 2nd downstairs. Obviously, we've outgrown our space, so we had to move upstairs. But this feels like we have a lot of good space to work with here. At that workshop, both staff and council identified 85 potential work items to work on in the current fiscal year. And then we went through a prioritization exercise. And if you remember, we had a line on the wall, and we asked you to collectively decide, is it above the line or below the line in terms of, they're all important ideas and good ideas, but from a level of priority, how do we set those priorities? 84 of the 85 items ended up on our work plan. And so what we didn't have time that day to do was really plan, prioritizing the 84. We just decided to go for it because I'm not afraid of a challenge. I don't think the council members are afraid of a challenge, and we want to get things done. But we'll talk about this. Through the quarter included on your table today is a peek at the 3rd quarter status report. It's largely done. I think I frankly forgot to add the Masonic Lodge presentation that I did last night to one of the items on the list. So we'll update for that for April 9th. But this is a good read on where we're at with all of these initiatives. It is an ambitious work plan, and the work plan and the tasks have revealed, and from my perch, some organizational capacity issues. And the shorter the list can be, the more time and quality we can put into the development of those initiatives. When we don't have that time, we are going to move forward a little faster. And we won't have as much time to review the items as they move forward a little faster. We did add some additional duties and initiatives to the list. Sometimes, these things happen in an organization. Sometimes there's an opportunity, like that ASICS grant with Palm Communities. We had several key staff members that were involved in 1-hour Monday morning, 8 a.m. meetings for several months as we worked with a very aggressive timeline to help meet a deadline. And now we have, in partnership with them, a $38 million grant application that we'll hear back later this year in August on whether that gets funded. Sometimes there are other opportunities like what you just acted on last Tuesday with the Stetson and Sanderson drainage channel area and the opportunity to discourage and remove homeless impacts in that area and the impact on the adjacent plaza. I know we also invested a lot of time in negotiating settlements of some legal issues that tasked the city attorney's time and other key staff. But these things are going to happen during the year, and having a work plan that anticipates that some additional time will be invested in other things that we can't foresee. Another good example that I wanted to mention was the speed bump issue over at Stony Mountain. Had a nice meeting in this room. I know that our city engineer has recently spent some time in the neighborhood. We're prepared to head to the Planning Commission on that item pretty soon. But those things happen, and we also want to make sure and ensure that our ad hoc committee efforts are synced with our strategic plans so that they're working together. So our first exercise is we've recruited a couple of scribes, Brenda and Demi. Now is your time to grab some writing instruments, and we want to spend some time inventorying the accomplishments of the organizations. This is of the organization over the last 10 months or 12 months. This is going to be a group exercise, so we want our staff involved in this conversation. If you can, speak into a microphone, but that's not necessary. We just want to begin to write down. So I want to begin with our city council. It's a free-for-all, so it's really rapid-fire shotgun approach. If there's something that you're proud of as an organizational success or accomplishment this year, we want to capture this. We'll take all of this and send it to you after the workshop. But we're just going to take notes and keep going until we're done.
Skate park,
Skate park,
pickleball courts.
pickleball courts. So we're gonna go from Brenda to Demi and back and forth. So next we'll go back to Brenda.
Paving,
I didn't hear that, sir.
infrastructure,
Working
working on our
Paving?
infrastructure.
Okay.
Are we gonna go down the line?
No,
Okay.
anytime, anyone at any time.
Okay, so I added like 5 things last year, and 4 of them were to clean up the city. And I'm so happy that we passed ordinances on time limits for building, the vacant building ordinance, the weed abatement by July 31st to clean up the cities. And I forgot what the 4th one is, but I think we've made great strides in the tip of the iceberg on cleaning up our city.
Okay.
Was
Others.
it trash enclosure?
Yes,
Trash
that's-
enclosures.
Pass it down to Denny, he said.
Hotel investment?
Hotel investment. Can't wait to see the first hotel that gets excited about this program, but we're gonna really go after that, particularly with the Wyndham Company, which seems to have a couple of opportunity sites in town. Others,
That ability to partner with Palm Communities?
the Palm Communities grant opportunity and partnership. Staff, feel free to jump in, but we want to make sure other council members also have an opportunity to share some.
And then I
Feedback.
like the support we just did with AMR.
The AMR partnership. This relates to ambulance service, paramedic service. Grant funding for the library. We have a solar grant. I think we barely beat the state's budget challenges, right? We slipped in literally when they were talking about closing the door. So that was good. Okay. Simpson Center rehabilitation. Feel free to jump in, staff, if you have any feedback.
The legislative platform.
Legislative platform, thank you. Property crime is down. 5.6%. We dropped below the state average, and we're committed to dropping below the national average here soon. Violent crime is down 3.2%. More flock cameras. More, I guess we could expand that to say, and Falcon cameras and live. What's the right acronym for that? Live view.
LVTs.
LVTs? Mobile LVTs. Others.
And that's the station that they'll be able to watch from there?
That's from the real-time, we're going to call it something other than real-time crime center, right? Real-time information center.
partnership with Little League at Brubaker Park.
Yeah.
Brubaker Park Little League Partnership. Replacement of vehicles and apparatus, really all departments, but definitely fire.
Our Sierra Dawn streetlight retrofit.
That was nice. Sierra Dawn retrofit, light retrofit. Became a lot less expensive too, didn't it? Yeah.
E-filing for Form 700 and campaign documents.
How timely that you mentioned it the day after it's due. I spent my afternoon with 3 different Form 700s yesterday, but thank you. It did make it a little easier for me not to
for
have to write it out.
Increasing transparency.
The establishment of a community services coordinator job position that included the ombudsman.
Right. This is Community Solutions Coordinator. So the new economic development manager mentioned investing in economic development. Part of his job duty right now is to build an economic strategy, which we'll be working on through the next quarter. But hiring him was actually one of our tasks this year, so we can probably note hiring the economic development manager also. Thank you, Ben. Library AC HVAC is moving forward. We're on generator power. We're on backup HVAC.
Temporary chiller, yeah.
Temporary chiller. We're in motion to get the real one. It's going to last us about 2 decades, and we're about 2 months out on an elevator. And what was the third item you said?
Our firewall.
Firewall.
And getting substantial discounts on that.
Okay, that's right. We received significant discounts on that and did that recently.
Swearing in of our
Shades.
new chief.
New police chief.
The shade structures here at library.
Library shade structures. We did fencing at the fire stations. We might revisit Station 5, right? Received a retail theft grant of $2.5 million. Terrific opportunity for us.
Citywide sewer main replacement project.
Sewer project, citywide.
Community events.
What's an example?
Veterans Day, Christmas, movies in the park.
Chalktober.
Chalktober, movies in the park, new Christmas parade, Veterans Day ceremony, etching this year, right? Okay.
Our GIS system upgrade and the reestablishment of in-house GIS.
We hired a GIS analyst this year. That's been very helpful. The charts on the wall here came from the nice plotter opposite his desk.
Active business relationships. We've got a great relationship with the chamber now. We do the monthly business walks. We're trying to get better businesses in, and I think we've gotten some this last year. So.
The business walks and enhanced partnership with the chamber. One of the observations that came out of one of the business walks was just what was happening in Page Plaza with the homeless situation, and recognizing that we had a potential opportunity to mitigate that through improvements at the drainage channel. But that was something that we stumbled across literally about 2 months ago on a walk. We've also started these business connect calls. Mayor Pro Tem, you had a chance to sit on the last one, and we interviewed Chief Ariano. And we're recording those so that we can share it with the chamber membership and enhance communication. Others?
The chief's ability to separate the traffic in that other division so they can work separately.
The enhanced focus on rocks in particular, right? Dedicated leadership in 2 different disciplines. Mayor Mentee program had another successful year. You had about 15 people in the cohort.
We've increased the street sweeping on commercial corridors.
Doubled the frequency of our street sweeping.
Increased community outreach through council meeting highlights City manager's office has been doing posts on, council meeting recaps.
I'm noticing a couple videos that you're starring in, recapping some of these meetings. So yes, there's been some work on that front. Thank you.
And along with that, we've had the coffee with a cop and coffee with the city manager, so that helps the community.
Right,
connect.
coffee with a cop and city manager once. And Norma, you talked about employee events, additional employee engagement events this year. Okay. What's an example of that? So enhanced fire, pre-fire, or pre-mitigation. Okay. Okay, thank you. Did you catch? We have it captured there under fire mitigation.
We've rolled out some water conservation rebate programs for Cash for Grass and smart irrigation controllers.
Marketing efforts for boards and commission vacancies, particularly planning commission.
We had a successful We had a successful recruitment for the planning commission. Yes. Can you say that again? Server conversion for the financial software. We're about to jump into an ERP transition, into a new ERP system, which is a heavy lift, but all the hardware is mostly intact now, Scott. So we're ready to move forward on that project. Yes.
Bringing back Hemet Beautiful.
This is the opportunity for another commercial, April 27th.
April 27th, we need volunteers and projects nominated. And sponsors.
HemetCA.gov/Hemet Beautiful. You can find opportunities to volunteer and also to submit project proposals. Thank you for that one.
Replacement of the security cameras at City Hall and the installation of the streaming live camera at the skate park.
Adopt a Street program.
The Adopt a Street program, we had a goal of doubling the number, I think, or was it 6 by December 31. We're at 7 now, a net increase of 7. We have a total of 12. We lost one this year. The Methodist Church is in transition, but we're at 7, and I think, Demi, we're about to grab a couple more. And we just had a really engaging social media post this week where the Mowat family was featured. I think they were at 278 views a night or two ago. So that's done really well. Hopefully that yields additional Adopt a Streets. Additional code enforcement coverage, now about to get to 7, which was the original goal at the beginning of the year. And the council added a code enforcement officer at mid-year. Were you able to get all 3 of those? Rental repair, home rehab, and what was the third one, Monique? Rental property and rehabilitation. Okay. 22% increase in officer-initiated activity. It's probably a good opportunity to share that whenever with our cameras and our efforts, it's hard to do something inconsistent with the law these days without getting caught. We catch people pretty fast. 1,100 flights of the drone that launched this year. And the drone's getting to sites within about 3 minutes still, Chief? Okay.
Bike lane improvements.
So we added bike lanes to Palm, and then we also have a new facility on State Street. Do you want to describe that?
Sure. There's a parking lot. There's bike lockers. There's there's some benches. There's it's kind of a repair station. People can fix their bikes there if necessary. Eventually, it's going to connect to the Salt Creek Bikeway, but right now it kind of ends there and it goes north up the new Hemet Valley Bikeway to Esplanade.
We're going to need pickleball, grand opening, and a ribbon cutting for this too, here shortly.
There were a lot of Mary Henley Park improvements that were completed this year. Gazebos, playground equipment,
Shade.
basketball courts were just resurfaced, so it just completed yesterday.
Excellent.
And the shade structure.
Yep, shade structures.
45, did you say 45 new hires? 35 promotions. 70 recruitments. And 17 currently open. That's a busy HR department, division. Yeah. So 11 sworn, 19 sworn, 11 non-sworn in the police department. Okay. Good. New literacy coordinator. I'm sorry? Council members, any other items that you're thinking of? I think this is
We did pretty good.
this is a pretty good list. Anyone else?
Did
on
you
this-
get trash enclosures?
I think trash enclosures was one of the first ones we mentioned, right? Okay. So the housing jobs balance and a significant number of houses and very significant commercial projects have been moving through our pipeline.
What about the 2 new warehouses coming in that will hire over, 500, 400 people?
The one is about 550. The other, I think, if you're thinking of the 90,000 square foot pipe manufacturer, that's about 20 jobs, I believe. And is that the second one you were referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
We completed a citywide engineering and traffic survey.
Engineering and traffic survey. Is that for the speed limits? Okay. Those are always very popular. GFOA budget award. So we're engaged in an active business survey now. It wasn't on the work plan, but we're reaching out to the business community to receive some feedback. And what was the second thing you mentioned? Joining the micro enterprise collaboration. Fire Station 1 improvements and more to come with the help of Supervisor Gutierrez. Okay. This is the time where we really need to celebrate the accomplishments over the last 10 months or 12 months. So let's give everyone a round of applause. Thank you. What we're going to do is we're going to place these on the wall over here. So in case anybody wants to refer to those, they'll be over here. And then we're going to move the easels a little farther away because that will help us with an exercise down the road. So if we can go back to the PowerPoint for a bit. The next step in this process will be to take a look at the City Council strategic plan goals. These may be a little hard to read. It may be easier to look at your handout. But these are the 5 overall arching strategic plan goals. Quality of life, economic opportunity, community engagement, partnership and collaboration, organizational effectiveness. And then we have various objectives that help define those broader goals. And this is an exercise where it may be helpful to, because we have time between today and let's say June, before we have to adopt a work plan. If there are any strategic plan broad goals or edits that are recommended to the objectives, we could have a couple council members work together on making some suggested edits and bringing them back. When I look at that, I think the broad goals are nice and broad. I think under quality of life, I was looking for public safety a little bit. We have a lot of focus on public safety, particularly police, and then a lot of ideas about being prepared long term from the fire perspective. But both fire and police are sort of under the quality of life today, under the third objective there, and I felt like my own observation is I think these broader goals align with the work that we're doing and that the council has committed to in the current work plan, but this is the opportunity to consider adjusting those. Think of these as more of a 3-year kind of, this is where we want to go, and the objectives is ways to help define what we mean by those overall goals. As you take a look at that, I want to pause and see if the council members have any comments on these strategic plan broader goals.
I have a couple comments. And I think under the quality of life, which also adds into economic opportunity, we really need to look at things for people to do that make them feel good. Arts and culture, Malcolm and I are going to be working on that. But also with the business going into then economic opportunity, people need and want places, nice places where they can go to dinner. They want shopping other than discount houses, and I realize discount houses bring in a lot of revenue. But I think we need to focus in areas that are uplifting for not only the economy, but how people feel about the community. And through that, somehow we need to really emphasize getting the good news of Hemet out there on social media and plug, don't like to say restriction of free speech, but somehow get good news out instead of all of the garbage that is going out, and improve the reputation of Hemet.
So feedback on arts and culture, and also dining establishments, places where people can gather and enjoy the town, as well as feedback on the way we promote our brand, and we have some ideas on some of that. But those are, council member, are you thinking that the definition of quality of life could expand a bit to incorporate those? Okay.
People feel good about our community.
Under economic opportunity, I think we should have something in there to work with our existing businesses to help them be more successful.
Every successful economic development strategy should start with growing our own. It's a lot easier to grow our own than to relocate somebody. Sometimes there are opportunities where a successful business in a nearby community is looking for a place to expand. Those are good. But growing our own is a really effective strategy long term.
Yeah, and just if we can, creating an incubator type system where we can really help. You know, some of the young people in the school district, the high school students, are creating their own jobs, and there's a couple of them at Hemet High that now have a coffee business on the grounds, and another one has a pastry business. I mean, these are things that need to be encouraged with our kids. And if there's anything we can do along that line to help with the mentoring process, which I know you do, things like that, I mean, really makes a community feel good about itself while lifting everybody else up in the process.
And I think our new economic development manager must be smiling to hear some of this. You know, when I arrived last year, I think safe and clean were kind of some of the first steps to, hey, let's make sure our residents feel comfortable shopping at our local stores. And I know that with some of the investments we've been able to make and are going to continue to make in enhancing the safety. We're creating a safer environment for our community to feel comfortable shopping, and also polishing the city up with some of the other initiatives. And that really does set the table for additional business investment and prosperity. And so I know we have a draft that's still so early that it's not ready for the two council liaisons, but it's getting there and it'll come fast when we spend more time together. So we have a draft that's starting to emerge, and some of what you described will be incorporated into that. But this is a conversation about the strategic plan goals, so we have opportunities to adjust these. Are there other council member comments?
Under community engagement, so the objective one, I like this one. I was wondering if we can add a little caveat to it where we can help people understand how they could get involved, because a lot I hear from the community that they want to get involved, but they don't know how, who to talk to, and different things like that. And I know there's a lot of organizations that need help, but if we can add in our messaging that connects, is consistent and relevant of how they could get involved. For example, with the library, she has so many opportunities for needing volunteers and things like that. So how people could just, it's like we're always putting stuff out there, but here's how you can get involved.
So maybe even, I know we're also working on a website update, and we're about ready to share with you an early screenshot of what that change would look like. But what I'm imagining, council member, is some form of a button that talks about volunteer opportunities. And when you dive into that button, and it's on the front page, so it's not hard to find, it describes what those available opportunities are, whether they're at the library, at Hemet Beautiful, or something else. Okay. And any type of messaging that we do to kind of emphasize the volunteer nature.
Just to add to that, at one point a few years ago, we had over 100 volunteers at the library. It was a very successful program, and kind of went hand in hand with a race with the police department. How many volunteers can you get to help your department? And it's absolutely awesome. It's great PR. Because those people then get the word out to everybody else that this is what the city is doing, this is what you can do to help, and that word of mouth is better than anything else.
That's right, and I know the library and the consideration of additional hours or expanded hours and volunteer opportunities, that conversation will come forward in the context of the budget discussion this year, because we have an idea of a staffing approach that will allow for that expansion. Going back to the great philosopher, the internet, it's going to come down to money. So that will be part of the policy considerations as we build the budget.
Maybe, so this might fall under partnership, and, well, let's see what happens. So what if we did something where we were able to get people on some type of list for volunteerism, so we wouldn't have to work so hard to get volunteers after the fact, So it's like I don't know how we could communicate with people through our trash bills or through any kind of paperwork that we send out from the city. Like, here's a way that you can volunteer. Here's how you can get on a list. We'll shoot you anytime we have some kind of projects going on, information like that. And maybe an incentive could be like a partnership with like CR&R, maybe 5% off your bill, or you know what I mean? Like something like that.
So, Malcolm, this is interesting because we're talking to a company from a calendaring perspective that yields the opportunity to ask some questions and build a database. The value is over longer term, but we have had a couple of meetings with them, the city of Banning, and I believe Beaumont, at least Banning, has this software. It's best when others within the community also put their events up, so that we can leverage all of the other people that volunteer somehow or participate in events. But perhaps what you're describing aligns nicely with a software product that a few of us have been chewing on a little bit recently. Okay. So there are several council ideas on perhaps adjusting more on the objective side, as you know, versus I haven't heard comments about are these the right overall arching goals, but I'm hearing comments on the objectives. Are there a couple of council members that would like to volunteer to work on some edits that we could bring forward at a later council meeting? We have 3 volunteers. I know. So, Carol, Jackie, and Linda are all interested. How would you like to work that out?
You want 2 or just?
Two is all we can do.
If he only wants 2.
Okay,
Take 'em
so city clerk, we're going to have Carol and Linda work on putting together some recommended edits to the objectives. Yes. Yeah, we can always add to the water bills. The challenge is it doesn't hit our entire community, right? Because there are EMWD customers as well. And so it's one of many multifaceted communication opportunities, but you're right, we can do that. Okay, now we're going to begin to set the table and we're moving pretty quick. I was thinking of a break about 10:30. How are we doing on time? It's 9:42. Okay. I think I'm missing mission statement. Let me go back to. There we go. I think I may have jumped ahead. I might have gone out of order. Mission statement. So we also want to check in on the mission statement and the vision statement. And a mission statement states why the organization exists and whom it serves. The vision statement should be a vivid, descriptive image of the future, what the organization will become. And so we want to take these one by one. We'll start with a mission statement and then talk about the vision statement. But this is, again, going to be a council engagement, council discussion about do these still fit the way they're written for the council and staff? Any questions and comments you have about them. So we'll begin with a mission statement. Again, a mission statement should state why the organization exists and whom it serves. So I'll read our mission statement. The city of Hemet will be a destination of opportunity and empowerment for its residents, businesses, and visitors by capitalizing opportunity, striving for growth, and promoting diversity and respect for each member of our community. Comments or feedback on the mission statement?
Yeah, just a comment. I remember when we did this a few years ago, and basically this was former council member Russ Brown's opinion verbatim. I would suggest maybe having the striving for growth, promoting diversity and inclusivity and respect. Just adding inclusiveness, inclusivity, whatever that word is.
Okay.
And that's my only comment.
Just so it reads better, I would like to add on, and visitors by capitalizing on opportunity. I just think it reads kind of weird by capitalizing opportunity. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
We have 2 suggested edits.
I'm fine.
That's a good statement.
So I'm seeing nodding heads that the addition of the phrase and inclusivity and also the adding on to the phrase by capitalizing on opportunity, striving for growth, etc., that those will work for the mission statement. And I see our city clerk taking notes on that. Okay. The vision statement. A vivid, descriptive image of the future, what the organization will become. Vision statement. Any comments on this existing vision statement?
I don't know the wording, but maybe we could add something that where our vision is to create a community where people feel good. Adding that somewhere. I know it's like, you know, a safe place, but how do we say like a safe and like where you feel like you're actually home?
Welcoming?
A safe and
Something to do with community engagement, or because,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Welcoming?
talking about
Welcoming.
safe and well-planned. It's not,
Welcoming.
you like welcoming? A safe welcoming.
A safe, and then
Or, yeah, a safe, well-planned, welcoming community.
to wordsmith that, but
So Malcolm, is the suggested edit a safe, well-planned and welcoming community with equal opportunity for all?
Do you like the article "and" in there?
well-planned community, well-planned welcoming community.
Well-planned, welcoming community. Okay. Got that, City Clerk? Okay. Excellent. Okay, we did that. We jumped ahead, did that second. Done that. Okay. Now, we'll set the table for this, and then we'll probably have, it'll be a good time to take a break. But right-sizing the strategic plan, again, this really comes down to organizational capacity and our ability to fund initiatives. The source material that we provided to you today is the Q3 update on the work plan status. So you have that reference material. But I went through an exercise to sort of inventory, and I'm going to grab that blue piece of paper. Thank you. Went through an exercise with our staff, and also just to document items that are potentially needing more time beyond the end of the current fiscal year. And we assembled a fairly significant list of concepts and just feedback. So it's probably helpful to walk through this really quickly regarding the reference material Excel file. So that's going to be this large document here. I have received a few community requested items for council consideration. Did we distribute the letter from Sierra Dawn? Okay. There's a letter that came in the context of today's workshop from Sierra Dawn. They would like to offer the city $20,000 a year for, I believe, the next 3 years or maybe 5 to work on center median beautification. And so that's an example of a project that I'm putting on the table for your consideration that we've received a request from. So I believe I emailed a copy of that letter to the city clerk, who can email that and forward it to you. Another member of our community has suggested a fentanyl awareness town hall in partnership with the Hemet Unified School District. And I've had some conversations with the superintendent about that. They're open to working with us. Typically, we would also want to work with a county health officer to really be the medical side of a meeting like that. It's really an informational opportunity. So that's what the Fentanyl Awareness Town Hall in partnership with the school district is. And then that same individual, broader than the topic of fentanyl, but really drugs in general, raised the idea of a memorial wall at Gibble Park that would be adjacent to the pickleball courts and tennis courts in that little grassy area, but also relatively close to the skate park. Yes, sir.
Do you think it'd be appropriate to invite Mike Hestron?
For the concept of the
fentanyl?
town hall? Yes,
fentanyl,
that would be
yeah.
reasonable. Because that's the big picture, right, is looking beyond just the medical aspects of it, but there are other aspects of it that can change people's lives in a bad way. On this memorial wall, the concept is to build something over at Gibble Park. And it would be something like a chain link fence. You've maybe seen this in cities like Paris, where someone will attach a lock for maybe it's there are different types of walls like this, right? Sometimes we're celebrating love, and we're attaching a lock, and we're holding onto the key. But this would be a memorial wall similar to that would maybe a fence with locks that are attached. But that's the concept there. There are some unanticipated, and that was A, so all those 8 items we just mentioned are on that chart on the left up here. And these are in sequential order. So B, category B, unanticipated non-work plan items that were added in the current fiscal year that require some ongoing work. So we know that with Highway 79, there's continued advocacy, particularly on the funding side related to that we'll continue to pay attention to and invest our time in, both at the council level and the staff level. Stony Mountain speed bumps, I mentioned earlier. We're about to be ready to go to the Planning Commission, and then that would come back to the full council. The Palm Communities Project we'll hear back in August on. The Homeless Encampment Grant, active, very active, and I have a need to talk to Robin as a result of a meeting she had this week on that. And we have a job offer going out, a conditional job offer going out this week to a candidate for the Community Solutions Coordinator position. And then we know that we're working on some issues related to Fire Station 5. And the flood drainage project that is underway now, that was something that we should finish that. Will that finish before the end of the fiscal year? Maybe not. Okay. We have to bid that out, right? It'll take a little while to design. So that's probably going to carry over to the next year. That's something, once it's in motion, we're not going to just turn off the water. We're going to let all of these, we're going to ride these out. So from an organizational work plan perspective, I think category B is more about be aware of these. They don't necessarily need to be on our work plan if you don't want them on the work plan, but to be aware that we're investing time and resources into advancing those initiatives. And then number 7 here, annexation proposals. So there is a very significant annexation proposal that's active. We didn't talk about it at the work plan last year because I didn't know it was active. But visiting the LAFCO office in Riverside, I realized that there was a 30 square mile proposal to double the size of the city limits. And LAFCO, the LAFCO applicant is at a point where their consultant needs some feedback on our staffing levels and what it would take for us to provide service to the county area. So what we've done internally is both police and fire have drafted a staffing model that we need to cost out. We haven't costed that out yet. And we've also taken a look at the road infrastructure from the county to understand what the current conditions of the roads are. And before we share that information, costing and the analysis with the applicant and their consultant, we'd like to have a council study session to talk about our assumptions and receive feedback from you before it goes to them. When it gets to them, they will incorporate or decide to or not incorporate our feedback into their own analysis that goes to LAFCO. And then LAFCO will get to a point where a comprehensive document is shared with public agencies like us to comment on. And we'll have another opportunity to see the broader picture at that time. But that is something that we can't control, but I promise you that is going to take a significant amount of time, and we may even want to bring in some consulting services to analyze the proposal when it gets to that step. Yes, sir.
The annexation proposal, is that on the east end or the west end?
It's actually primarily on the east end. However, there are areas on the south end and also on the west end, little smaller pockets that are part of that same annexation proposal.
That cannabis store that's on the outskirts of the west end, is that part of the annexation?
I don't know if it's in or not. I'd have to look at a map because the sliver, I think it's actually, I don't think it is. I think it's closer to, a bit further south, but I'm closer to the Winchester edge,
Okay,
not Highway 74.
thank you.
So, any questions on category B? Okay. Items in progress. So I have put an asterisk on this. There are many items that are in progress in the work plan. Our commitment is we will finish those. The asterisk says it assumes that all other remaining strategic plan items from the current work plan will be completed before June 30th. It's possible that they won't, but if they're close, we're going to get those done. What I've shown you are potential areas where it maybe need more time. I think the car wash moratorium expires in August, for example. So you don't have to act necessarily before that, but that's an example of one.
Are we able to extend that?
Yeah,
One more year?
I believe so.
1 year.
I don't-
Yes, so we've only done the first year. We can do one more year if needed.
And then what do we have to do?
Then you have to make a decision on whether you're going to prohibit any further car washes or establish regulations governing their use in the city.
Okay, thank you.
The wrought iron, this is, staffing constraints sometimes impact our ability to, and we're prioritizing some of the work, so we're working on some things first and then others. The security fencing item we have not invested significant time on yet, nor the no littering signs. For the youth engagement, what we have done is prepare a very significant grant. It was the same grant that we applied for a year ago, but this year I think we've put together a more competitive proposal. We're keeping our fingers crossed that this grant will be funded. It will serve about 1,400 to 1,500 students in the valley. But I think the vision here is broader than just a single grant. This is what else can we do for the children in our community, and there's room for a conversation, a broader conversation there. We have concepts on the soccer field expansion, and we think Diamond Valley Lake is the right place for that. And the next steps are understanding how we can work with Valleywide and Metropolitan Water District to decide who to take initial design forward and where the funding would come from for a soccer field expansion. Getting the plan in place and shovel ready should be considered the next step. And I had lunch with the EMWD general manager last week to talk a little bit about connecting to Metropolitan on this topic. The Economic Development Strategic Plan I mentioned is in motion, but when we approve that, it's going to consist of a minimum of probably 20 initiatives, it's fair to say. So there'll be some significant, and you'll have other ideas once we share that with you, and it may grow a little bit, and we'll phase it. We can phase this over 2 to 3 years, all of these initiatives, but it will have a lot of initiatives in it. That is in motion now, but I just want us to be aware that implementing that will take, it will be a plan over multiple years. Malcolm.
Going back to number 4, I would personally like to see the youth involved, like we had them involved with the skate park. Sometimes as adults we think we know what children want or need, and oftentimes we make decisions without ever asking them. So I think that would be, I don't know how that would work out, but I think we should involve them.
So ask our customers what the customers would like to be involved in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I could add on to what Malcolm just said, I was asked by Assemblymember Corey Jackson's office if we had a student council advisory group similar to city council, but have representatives from all the different high schools in town. And that would, I said we don't, but it is definitely something we have talked about over the years, and that type of a student council advisory board, I think, would fit right in with that, and even the mayor mentee program, just to have representatives from all the high schools.
We have that in the jurisdiction I work for, and it does work really well on getting feedback from the youth.
Thank you. Yeah, those are good programs, and they're not too difficult to launch. We probably would want to launch something like that in the September timeframe, so we can reach out to the schools when August, really late August, when schools get back in session. So if we were able to work on sort of building the program between now and then, we have time to actually create a cohort that can work with us through the remainder of the school year. And then police cadet pipeline program. Chief, I don't know, I think we were rethinking some of the approach to that, right?
Yeah, I think the current process is an old process. It's part-time student, college student. So they have to have a certain amount of credits that they have to be accomplishing, and then as well come in and they're getting paid minimum wage, which is lower than going to McDonald's or a Pollo Loco or something like that. So there is no enticement to come in using the old way. So we have to change it, and I think we should include not only college students, we should include high school students as well. So, and that'll get them involved in our Explorer program and whatnot. So I have some ideas, and so I definitely want to revamp it and come up with new ways of bringing on our cadets.
Thank you. Simpson Center Management, we have gone through an RFP process. We have a proposal. The proposal requests the city to invest $500,000 to pay for their staffing, and then they would enjoy the revenues off of the building asset. And so we've been huddling and thinking about some other alternatives, and we would like to share, we intend to share some of those near term, because I think we've landed on some options that might make sense as an alternative, and we've looked at essentially bringing this in-house in a variety of different ways, where we would staff the facility, we would receive the revenue off of the rentals, we would control certain aspects, and we would have the flexibility to use the asset in different ways that make sense for the city. But we'll council feedback on some of those concepts if you were not attracted to the original proposal. And then the city manager still needs to work on the protocols. Okay, that's C. I'm gonna lock myself in a room for half a day. I think we have 2 elevators we can work on. Okay, column, or the section D here. These are ideas that I've talked to with our staff. We had a number of additional ideas. I've tried to reduce the list to about 11 here, but clearly our roads, we're incrementally addressing some of those. We probably can't catch up entirely through incremental funding. There probably needs to be a broader strategy, and what we're recommending is development of a 20-year road, or it doesn't have to be 20, but concept of a long-term road rehabilitation and funding strategy that allows us to catch up and get to a place where we're not spending $1 million a mile to pave our streets. We're spending $115,000 a mile. Clearly, on our on the fire department side, our response times are slowing. We're actually almost 2 minutes now behind what the NFPA standard is in terms of response. There are a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is we've built out to different edges of the community. So Stony Mountain, Four Seasons, McSweeney Farms. These are edges that are pretty far from fire stations, and even a couple of our engines that are slated to be replaced take about a minute to warm up, so the brakes work. So we can't really leave the station. But with a new apparatus that should arrive later this year, we'll save a minute out of 2 of the stations right away when we deploy these engines, to calls. So that's good news. But we do have a growing call volume, and planning ahead will make it easier for us to be prepared to make those investments. You'll see a lot of shovel-ready type of efforts on this list, because when cities take the time to plan, when those opportunities for grants and also opportunities through representatives like Mr. Ruiz, Dr. Ruiz, we can have projects that are ready for earmarks and other funding solutions. So what we would like to do is use some software that refines our ability to analyze how can we best address response time and build different, plan different investments. So for example, Four Seasons is so far away from Station 3. The vision was always to build a station closer to Four Seasons. That's an edge that needs some attention. Diamond Valley area, McSweeney Farms needs some attention. We have room to expand Station 2 on Stetson, and that's a good example of getting a shovel-ready investment prepared, at least from a design perspective, which doesn't cost that much. And we can always, when we're ready to invest in 2 additional people and a squad at a building like that that now has 2 additional beds and quarters for the truck, the pickup truck, then we would be prepared to do that. That's what number 3 is here. We do believe that the Fire Training Center is a good opportunity for grants as well as earmark commitments. So the Fire Training Center, if we design the additional improvements, then we'll have opportunities to reach out to people or grants that would fund those investments. And we know that when we build this out, it's going to become even more attractive to others that want to train in our facility, potentially leading to overnights at our enhanced hotel infrastructure. Number 5, this is related to cyber readiness. We are recommending that we secure and install a managed detection and response solution. And Scott can answer more questions on that. Weston Park, we're suggesting that we engage a professional park consultant. It's amazing what park design looks like today. And this is an opportunity to consider things like a splash pad and other ways that we activate the space that perhaps deters other behavior that is in that location today. But Weston Park feels like a potential opportunity to do some design, which means stakeholder engagement with our community, a lot of community conversation about what might be. So that's a concept. Same idea with Simpson Park. It was last updated in 1989. The bathrooms are tired. The asphalt is tired. The security is not what it could be. There are other opportunities up there to consider partnership with even the Western Science Center for some form of a satellite entity that might replace one of our decaying mobile homes. Noah and I have taken a look at the 3 assets up there. We think 2 of the 3 are probably not worth investing in. One could probably be cleaned up for the city manager's cottage. Happy to go there myself. Number 8, because we have a unique development process and now DLS department, it's my recommendation that we take a look at a staffing study to understand what an independent look at our entire development process would yield in terms of recommendations, both for the type of people and the number of people that touch the development process, but also the process itself. Are there impediments that get in the way? But I think it's also an opportunity for us to evaluate the model that we have today and to present recommendations that we could move forward on. So that's number 8. Number 9, I think we already heard some comments on this kind of concept, update, or I think the mayor told me yesterday, create the Hemet brand, identity, and story. So this is about getting our message out. Number 10, this is a kind of out there concept, but a business incubator where we can cultivate businesses in-house. We can scale this from literally a couple to a dozen. Probably don't want to go more than a dozen. Typically, it comes with a modest scholarship, office space, access to conference rooms, potentially access to event space. And these typically work best in downtown type areas. So if we had space near the downtown, whether it's the Simpson Center or any other space that would be in and around the downtown, or even a vacant building that a property owner may be willing to partner with the city on, this could be something that allows us to incubate businesses. Sometimes business incubators have a focus, and sometimes that focus might be biomed, right? So a city near the former Abbott Laboratories in Temecula, they may have more of a tech or medical focus. But a couple concepts for a business incubator might be veterans or arts type initiatives. But these are people that would come out of the military, and they may want to open a sandwich shop. They may want to open an engineering firm. It could be anything. So whatever their business idea is, it could be a wide variety of ideas. But the idea is to partner with a law firm, partner with a CPA firm, partner with one other enterprise that would help cultivate, I'm forgetting the third that's on my list, but to help cultivate the business development of that, it would be a law firm. Yeah, law firm, CPA, and someone else. But the idea is to really support their development and create an environment where they work together to build businesses. So there are synergies that happen when we smash entrepreneurs together in a space. And there are a number of communities in and around Riverside County that have a business incubator. So there's already a culture in Riverside County. We just don't have that culture in the valley at the moment that I'm aware of, at least not in the city of Hemet. And then finally, we'd like NOAA and team to complete all of their CIP work. There may be 33 items now because I asked him to include the trash enclosure at the corner of Stetson and State. So we'll add the trash enclosure there in the city parking lot. The bill is paid by a private company, but not the city. But it's our trash enclosure, and we know it needs a roof and can be much more elegant than it is today. Any questions on these possible work plan items? Okay. Finally, just want to note we're tracking additional items that you've requested. Since you've requested it, we're treating these work to do. So you had talked about consideration of state and federal lobbying services, facility naming policy, which we also need to look and determine whether we actually have an existing policy. Consider modifications to the cannabis ordinance, up to 5 storefronts, and feedback that we received on the travel and expense policy. And if I'm missing anything, we'll add that to the list. Today's workshop also includes time that we're going to dedicate, similar to what we did last year. We've given you 11 by 11 yellow pads of paper to draft additional ideas for work initiatives that lead to, that meet the goals and support the goals of the council as we move forward in building this work plan this year. So in a moment, we're going to take some time to allow you to write down some additional ideas that we'll put up on the wall and be part of a priority setting process. And so we'll work on that in just a moment. And finally, just on F in green here, these are really not for work plan development, but just be aware that these are items that we've built. These are items that we've built as a result of the current year work plan that are going to continue to tap our staff time this year. So we'll be investing a lot of time in meeting with hotel owners and investors on the hotel investment program. Chalktober, we're thinking will work well as a library initiative this year. The drainage plan needs to transition into the environmental phase. The 602 letters will never go away. We want to continue to support the fact that those are current and updated, so our police department will remain busy with that. The trash enclosure pilot program, I think we have 11 applications now, and we're about to do site visits with all of these 11 and discuss where exactly it will go on each of those properties, and then we'll see some of these projects begin to move forward. We've also reached out to our contractor community who may become our best salespeople, and we're going to make sure that they're aware of this opportunity, and I'm certain that they will be, once they are aware of it, they will become our ambassadors as well. Hemet Beautiful, like to continue that beyond 1 year. We're interested in growing the Adopt a Street. We're not going to stop there. If we'd like to put that on the work plan, that's fine, but we know that we're going to continue to press the envelope on that. We're about to launch a city beautification project. We don't want it to be confused with Hemet Beautiful, because it's not, but it is a beautification project that will launch on May 4th and run through July 4th, about 2 months. And that will have some fun with it because we're going to have a bit of council district competition, I believe, if I'm remembering all of that correctly. And then we're obviously going to continue to be committed to enhancing code enforcement efforts on our commercial corridors and processing applications on the storefront vandalism relief program. Questions or feedback on that? Okay. So at this time, check in on break. We can do a break now, or maybe a break after 15 or 20 minutes where we have you write down some additional ideas for consideration. Okay. We'll break now, and then we'll come back and we'll work on an exercise. We'll take about 15 minutes. Okay, we're going to get started again in just a minute. Okay, now we're entering the fun part. This is the fun part where we get to identify some new ideas. Our process over the next hour is going to be first, we're going to begin with a brainstorm. I'm thinking maybe 15 minutes. We may need a little bit more time. And then as you write down items, what we would like you to do is announce and explain each of the ideas that you have. We'll put it on the wall, and it will be part of the array of ideas that are on the wall and issues, tasks, that will be later dealt with through a voting process. So we have some dots. And we'll talk about those on the next slide. But the dots, we have a limited number of dots, and they have different levels of importance. And so from that, we will likely end up with some conversations, and we'll discuss with the staff for clarity, and also amongst the council for consensus on what items should stay on the list and at what level of importance. So, next slide here. Actually, I think this is a good time to begin. We'll pause now, and we'll ask you to use the yellow sheets. These are the 11 by 11s, and the black pens that you have, and jot down different ideas that you don't see on the list yet, but you're interested in sharing with your colleagues for consideration on next year's work plan. And what we're going to do, we may need to, can't really move that TV, but we want to have you put them on walls. So we may need to use walls over to the right here to make room for some of your squares. So we'll give you some time to write down different ideas. We'll put them up on the wall. And as you put them up, we'll hand you a microphone to explain them to the room.
So we're adding things that aren't on this list?
So anything that's not on the list that you're thinking about that you think is a good action item for next year, think of this as a 12-month task, up to 12 months. So something that we would accomplish over the next 12 months, and we'd want to get it done. If it's a big idea, sometimes we need to break those big ideas down into incremental tasks. So for example, with the drainage plan, we're now going to move from an initial phase to an environmental review phase. But we'll see what your ideas are, and then from that, we'll work. That's the benefit of having a couple of weeks to refine what shows up, and then make sure that we also add measurement tools. We'll want to define a measurement. So what you will originally come up with will be an idea, and then we'll accompany that with who helps support that idea, and how do we measure success? How do we make sure that it's complete? So we're going to give you some time to write. And what we'd like to do is have each idea on a separate piece of paper, if that's okay. And we have more paper, right, Brenda, in case we need it? If they're already on the list, we're going to use those that are already out there, and you'll be able to vote here. And I think it'll be easier if we put all of the new ideas off to the right here, so we can collect them. There may be some that are similar, and we'll need to consolidate some of your ideas. We're actually going to make room over here. Probably a little easier for everyone to be in the same space. So we're going to move that television. If we could move that closer to the door, that would be helpful. Yeah. Mayor, how you doing? Do you still have other ideas you're writing down? Finish one? Okay. Okay. So we have an extra microphone. Is it still over here? Okay. Mayor, we'll turn it over to you to decide which council member to go first. But what we would like you to do is take your list, put them on the wall over here between the two letter B and letter C. Reach high if you can, and we'll just build it down and try to fit all these ideas over there or along the bottom of some of these. And then have you explain briefly, just briefly, what the idea is. Well, make sure everyone understands what the idea is. Then we'll have a conversation about are there ideas that are similar that need to be consolidated, and then we'll proceed to the next step.
You're gonna have everybody else go first, I think. That's what he said, you're gonna pick who goes first.
I don't think so. This is the order. Carol, you're first. Jackie, you're second. Who's taller? Malcolm, you, and then or Malcolm, Linda, then
Okay. Okay. So my first one is fast-tracking qualifying projects. So if they're bringing in a certain number of jobs, skilled labor, and or if they have other kind of benefits to the city, such as increased sales tax revenue, I think that we should have some kind of program where we can help expedite them through the development process. I would love that if code enforcement can be more proactive. Again, we can focus on some of the businesses that aren't really keeping their curb appeal up, and I actually have that on another post-it. But again, we can help the city look better if we're more proactive. I know we're reactive just because of our staffing, but there were some things that I saw when I did my code ride along, like cars parking on grass in their front yard or unimproved surface. We haven't been enforcing. That can really help bring a neighborhood up, and again, getting property owners to just take more pride in their property. I don't know about the other council members, but I receive so many calls complaining about not getting phone calls or responses back. I'd like to see a policy put in place that just provides direction on just acknowledging people. I think that goes a very long way, even if you don't have an answer, but just kind of responding in a certain period of time, saying, I'm working on it. Can you give me a week or two and I'll get back to you with more information? But that's probably the majority of the calls that I receive. I know I've brought this up before, but our retention and recruitment and training, I know we had a lot of new hires, but we also had probably an equal amount of separations. So again, HR is continually doing recruitments for the same position. Just would like to see something more to where we can kind of focus on keeping our employees and recruiting talent. This is Malcolm's idea about creating a youth council. Like I said, in the jurisdiction I work for, we have a youth council that is through the high school. They meet once a month. The department heads do training with them once a month. I did a planning 101 with them. I think it's a great way for the youth to get engaged in local government, and again, getting their feedback is important, but that was Malcolm and Linda, so. This was on the list, but I'm very concerned about the call times, so I don't know if we need to take that down. This one is like part and parcel with that, just compelling property owner and businesses to keep their properties looking good. And Again, actively looking for businesses that provide for skilled labor and high-paying jobs. A lot of calls I get too are on conditions of streets. So I know we have some that are so poor that it doesn't make sense to work on them because of the cost, and working on some that we can actually bring up. But continuing to work on our pavement management plan and trying to address our severely distressed streets. I'm sure some of you have heard when I go through the warrants, I'm always wanting to make sure that we're billing back to projects as much as we possibly can, and accurately accounting for our time on deposit-based projects or however that would work, but just being able to make sure that we can cover cost, have applicants or projects cover cost when we can do that. I know this is probably not popular, but a lot of complaints are that people can't get help on Mondays or Fridays because we are working on a skeleton crew on Mondays and Fridays. So I do receive complaints about, basically only getting service Tuesday through Thursday because whoever they need to talk to isn't there. Focusing on some of our distressed assets. As I've been doing ride-alongs with the fire department, Station 3 was extremely distressing. Parts of the wall are peeling off on the outside. There's major termites, and what the staff told me is they hold hands at night to keep the building together. I did tour the Station 2 bathroom that hasn't been updated since before I was born. So there's some concerns. I encourage you all to go take a look. And I think that's all that I had at this point.
Thank you, Councilmember Kendrick. Council members, do you have any questions for Carol? Any questions? Okay, we're going to move on to Mayor Pro Tem Peterson.
Okay, so I said I added 5 things last year, and 4 of them were on the appearance of our city, and we've made some progress in that. But I would still like to see more weed abatement in the city, and I know that it's mandatory for fire risk, but also just the residents and the businesses and such. I think if we get into a cycle of somebody doing a good job, I'm hoping it'll have a good domino effect, that other people will take notice, and it'll get us better businesses in here, it'll get us better tax revenue, and we can give more revenue to the other departments that are suffering. And bulk of our budget goes to public safety, which is good, but then the other departments don't have as much that they really need to do an excellent job. They're doing a good job, but we want an excellent job. So I have more weed abatement for fire risk and aesthetic. And then I love art shows. So I would like to see a spring and or fall or both art festival in town. And not just the city. I want it advertised so that other cities, even other states can come. I go to the College of the Desert in the Palm Springs area, and they have a rotation of vendors that travel. So when it gets cooler here in the winter, they go down to Florida. And then, they switch, so they rotate. It's like a circuit. So we could get some of those people into Hemet and have them come in the region, because there's a lot of cities around us that do art festivals, and we don't do one. Okay, and along with art, I know there's been a lot of talk on murals and such, and I just talked with our lawyer, Stephen, and he said this worked beautifully in San Bernardino. You know, they had younger people that were doing graffiti, tagging, and all this and that, and he said they picked a huge wall in San Bernardino, and they said, anybody come out and paint a section. And I said, I always worry about people going over what's been painted. He said for a whole year, nobody touched it. So if they're the ones that are doing the graffiti and tagging, they're talented people. So we could put them to work to make a nice collage mural in town somewhere if somebody had a wall or building that they would donate. Okay, and then again, on the appearance of the city, I would like to see more landscaping on streets and corridors. Actually, one of the Public Works gentlemen suggested this to me last year, and he said, how about if we do Dominagani Parkway? You know, make it more appealing for people that come into town from that end. Ramona Expressway did something, I don't know how many years ago, in San Jacinto, and he was thinking something along that lines. And if we put in some structures like that, it would actually probably be less maintenance, because they wouldn't have to prune real shrubs all the time and mow grass and that. So Ramona Expressway, I believe, is more concrete and, you know, metal structures. You know, it's like flowers and fake metal shrubs, that kind of thing. So it would be less maintenance for Public Works, and it would be more inviting for people to come in and see that it's always there and always consistent and kept up.
Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Peterson, when we stack those, they start to fall. So if we take each one and we individually place
Okay.
it, it
It's too
seems
much
to
weight?
hold better. Yes.
Okay, great. Good idea. Okay, so this one I just thought of today, but you know, the wine country is great, and they have horse tours, and I know we've got a couple horse facilities around here, but they're not open to the public. So I thought, what if we would have a horse stable, and the police department could board their horses there, and then they could do equine patrols, especially like during our city events. So it could be like maybe a public place that we could go rent horses, and they would have their own section with their own horses, and they could do horse patrols for us. So I would love to see that. And a lot of my ideas were last year, and I'm proud of what we've done in the last year. I think we've done some good things. So I only had these few to add, so I'll let everybody else talk.
Okay. Council members, any questions for our Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Councilmember Lilienthal?
I don't, yeah. I don't really have, you said questions, but can I add to hers? So when she says, she said something about like a wall to paint on. I think it's this one. Maybe this could be Gibble. Maybe that one could be Gibble Park, and then Dominic, and the Dominagoni one. Hey, watch this. What if as you're leaving the city, so I'm thinking like you're making a right onto Dominagoni off of Sanderson, and you're leaving the city, right? And it tells you this story about where we are today as far as like the history, and then as you're coming back into the city, it's almost like you're seeing how we started to where we are today, like little structures that kind of tell the story. Is that weird? No. But that's what I would add to her Dominigoni project. All right, so for me, I was thinking of a tech building. This could either be at Weston Park or the Simpson Center. But if we have a tech building, this would be like more for the youth. I think it should be subscription based, so parents or whoever would sign up on a subscription base to help pay for the cost that would incur for the city. And so that would give space for I don't know if social media content, podcasts, different things like that. So I think you could turn the shuffleboard building at Weston Park into this, or we could host it at Simpson Center. And then I was thinking about adding capacity to the Stony Mountain speed bump process that we got. So whatever we're designing in Stony Mountain, can we add it to the streets Garland, Cypress, and Arbor? And then for Simpson Park, sorry, Mayor, I saw your paper. But maybe we can partner with one of the local universities for an observatory. And then, wait, there's more. I know we've been talking about this, but like community garden maybe here. And I think it'd be a good partnership with some of our nurseries that they hold the classes here. And I think that adds to the whole feel good element. And then maybe a community dog park where you have, how like we have amenities for the kids at the park. So not just like a open space, but maybe like amenities that the dogs can actually climb on and run on and hide under and different things like that. And then following or along with that is maybe, what if we had a dog parade in the city? People love to show off their pets. All right, and now my last one is that as a city, that we partner with either Senator Rosalisi or Assemblymember Corey Jackson. I believe this one would go with Councilmember Kendricks, the proactive code enforcement on these businesses and stuff like that. But I was thinking more specifically to ask these members or us in partnership to hold property owners accountable for how their structures look and what people are living in. Because I think if some of you guys, we talk about like what's happening at the fire stations, you should see how some of these people are living. And you could just walk past some of their homes and the smells coming out because their toilets don't work, or there's mold in there. And I don't know if it's like we could be the leading city to like push legislation to hold people who accept Section 8, take care of your properties. People are living in them, and it should be like a safe place for people to live in. And some of these places are falling apart, and it's not fair. So if our code enforcement, I can guarantee you, if our code enforcement went out there, they would have to red tag these places. But that means you're putting a bunch of families on the street. And I don't think that's fair, So legally speaking, like, you have to uphold the law or an ordinance like that, but you'd make a bunch of people homeless. So I think on the maybe like the root, instead of like penalizing, maybe we come from the other end and help with our lawmakers to support an effort on accountability when it comes to structures like that.
Thank you, Malcolm. Any questions for Malcolm? Okay. Councilmember Krupa.
Some of mine dovetail on what's already up here, which is really, really gratifying that we're kind of all thinking about the same things. But my biggest one is what I said earlier. Push out the good news about Hemet. Several years ago, we actually interviewed several different firms, companies, that were internet gurus, and just to push out 2 and 3 and 4 times a day good things with tagline Hemet. Because if you go on the internet and you type in Hemet, you get a whole long laundry list of everything bad that's ever happened here in the last 45 years. So it's when they hit on that, it comes to the top. It's popular, it comes to the top. So if we push out good news, it's going to come to the top. So, next. Where is this? You hold that? I can't pull these apart. There we go. Thank you. This is part of branding. We are the Valley of the Mastodons. If you go out to Western Science Center, their big sign says Valley of the Mastodons. Malcolm and I have talked about this, and I am a member of a small group of community people who's working with Hemet Unified right now in a program called Hemet Art Now. And one of the things we're coming up with several things that Jackie has touched on. One of them is to the arts and culture that we get as a city in conjunction with Hemet Unified, because they have $1 million grant to go through this. And we get horse-size mastodons placed around town that different businesses and entities can adopt. They can paint them, they can decorate them, they can do whatever. And we have mastodons like Idlewild has deer, and Vancouver, Canada has bears every place, and it is really a unifying factor and brings out a lot of community spirit. One of those is also murals. We're working with a couple businesses and Hemet Unified to have the students create different murals and not have it permanently painted on a building, but affixed to a building so that the murals can be changed out if the building owner would like to have that done. So this is something I'm glad we're all thinking about good things. Let's do it this way. This is something I've talked to Noah about briefly, as private streets. We have actually a lot of private streets in mid-block, in the old downtown especially, and they're a disaster. They're usually dirt, full of potholes, overgrown trees, different easements, people encroaching on easements so that ambulance, fire truck, and CR&R can't get down the streets, and we need to do something. I don't know what we do. So that's between legal and public works, but we need to address that issue and find out what we can do to either help these people on the private streets or create them city streets, because most of them have city signs on them even though they're private streets. And my favorite, plant more trees. We need another public outreach. When we did Simpson Park, we got 23 trees, I believe, paid for by community people and entities, and I know Arbor Day is coming up again, and there are different, I know the Women's Club and Rotary buys a tree every year, and I think more people would, because they're very reasonably priced, and we need an outreach program for people to buy trees. And these two are really stuck together. I'll leave that one for last, because that's going to cost you money. Music and concerts in the park. That comes into Weston Park. We used to have a gazebo band shell down there, and the high school kids want to come and play in the parks. The schools want the jazz bands to come and play in the park. We need to institute that type of program. Another favorite of mine is more streetlights. Let's fill in the dark places. If we can do it at a Sierra Dawn, we can do it every place else. And the last one is a city information board, like the Auto Mall has. And we could have all community events up there, because nobody seems to know what anybody else is doing in the valley, since we really don't have a daily newspaper. And that ends up being kind of some of our problem and some of our poorly attended events, because afterwards it's on Facebook and everybody goes, oh, I didn't know it was even going to happen. So those are mine, and that's it. Mayor, you are up.
Hello, 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 hello. You too, Noe. How you doing? All right, my first one is one that's going to help our markets, because what's happening is there's been about, I know 2 for sure, managers that came out to me that knew that I was the mayor and asked me, hey, what do we do about the homeless stealing our shopping carts? It costs us a lot of money. And I said, well, get the brake, the one with the brake on the wheels. And then he said, well, that costs too much money. But I said, well, if you have to keep replacing them, doesn't it cost a lot of money to do that? But anyways, we need to update our ordinance for shopping carts or shopping cart thefts. Okay. The city owns a lot of land. I think Mark and I were discussing this the other day, and I was really shocked to see how much land the city owned. We talked about the students starting businesses. Why can't we use some of this land, at least one like in the downtown area, put Conex trailers up, build little shell businesses, and allow either students or startup business to come in. And I think we discussed this at one point, but we didn't mention students, and allow businesses to come in at a low rent or maybe rent-free for the first 6 months and see how their business goes, and if it's productive, then we charge them. Who's laughing? Who's laughing? What? No, we throw them out. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I had a gentleman come to my office. He's worked with a homeless population up north where it got really bad. He moved out here to the south because he just said it was overwhelming, but he's a person that volunteers in nonprofits, knows what it's all about. He suggested using one of our properties or a property somewhere, and my friend over here, Dana, says, oh, I own 5 acres of property out in Wildemar. Perfect. But we set up tents, like military. When they go out, they set up a tent village, and we provide restrooms, we provide whatever, and for temporary, but we do this so we can get them out of our parks and off our streets. And if we have an ordinance that says there's no pandering, no sleeping, no whatever in our city limits, and you have to go to this facility here if you want to just lounge around and do nothing. We don't put any restrictions on them. We just let them go there, and that's it. We gate it, put a gate around it, and until we can get them permanently housed, and we let them stay there. But we get them out of our parks, because the kids go to these parks and there's nothing but graffiti, trash, and whatever they leave there. But we have to put a stop to it somehow. Also, Malcolm, the one that you already posted, let me see if I can find that. I have been in favor of an observatory up in Simpson Park. I think that would be ideal for our high schools, middle schools, maybe even elementary schools. I had a friend that works for JPL that I went to school with. He told me he can have kids come out that way and do, what do they call them? Field trips out there to JPL. Then I also ran into a gentleman that worked for NASA, and I can't remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure I can find his card because he gave it to me, and he said the same thing. He said Hemet would be an ideal place for people to learn about aerospace, about the stars, about astronomy, about everything. So if we can get that observatory up there, that'd be great. This is my little pet peeve here, probably the only one that will vote on it, but that's fine. But I feel if we have 5 council members in the chamber and everybody can hear except for one because of the muffled sounds that come out of our audio, I think we should replace the audio, because when I can't hear, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to, ask the attorney, what'd they say? And I know I have an issue with my ears, but I've also heard someone else mentioning that the audio wasn't that great and that it does cause problems sometimes. So especially when people call in from live stream and I'm trying to hear them, it just has a lot of bass or a lot of something. But I would love to update our audio in our chamber room. That's all I have. Any questions? Thank you.
All
Can
right.
Can we?
Yes.
Manage is ADA compliant stuff for the hearing. Also, for the visually impaired, could we add like a couple, maybe like 2 screens like above where we're at for the audience? So because that where when we start PowerPoints, it's like off to the side and it's really hard to see, and it's
What you see in modern chambers like that would be television screens off the sides of the room, and something like that potentially can be effective. But I think what you're asking for is a friendly amendment. When we think about the ADA item that the mayor has brought up, let's also think about the audio or the visual aspects of how our council and our visitors and residents are seeing the information in the presentation. So I think there are a couple of areas where I spotted maybe some similarities with probably something in this list here. And I think from an arts and public places type of program, that broader, we have an ad hoc on that topic and we have a current year work plan task on that really should be on this list here. But there are a couple of art items that align in here, and if we end up with votes on art-related items, my expectation is we will be working with a council ad hoc, and the ad hoc will essentially navigate through a variety of opportunities, along with what we would call an arts and public places program. Staff can help me find areas where we may also have some other redundancies with items on another list. I think there was at least one other. Observatory twice. Is it somewhere over here? Up here? Right here? Oh, okay. Is it okay if we pull one of these off? Is that okay? We'll take the one that's harder to reach off. But it's the same thing. We're thinking of that as the same. Are there any other areas of potential redundancy with items that are on other lists here? The homeless encampment grant, we're going to be working on that, and some of the concepts related to the tent can fall under the ad hoc committee there. But if it's a high priority, we want to know about that. Community garden, by the way, I think we're days away from receiving a proposal from the Green Coalition, and they have a location that we own in and around the downtown that they're interested in partnering with us on. So I know there's community enthusiasm about that.
We could probably consolidate all the code enforcement ones. There's like 4 up there.
Carol had a couple of those, right, Carol? A number of these kind of are in the same theme, right? So when we think about those, we can either consolidate them now, or we're going to treat votes for all 3 of those or more that relate to that as a vote for code enforcement efforts on that front. When we get to the voting exercise, we'll want you to consider items here as well. These are the community-sponsored or initiated items. These are items that we're frankly going to continue working on unless you tell us otherwise to turn a 180 on. We'll be voting on these. These are items in progress that we'll assume will continue. These are city manager / staff concepts. I think roads, Carol, I think this kind of aligns with that. And fire facility improvements is the other, just planning out the infrastructure. There are some similarities there. These are two very similar. Fire Station 2. Simpson Park was mentioned here. And so Simpson Park, this can be folded into the observatory. So if we have votes here and observatory, developing a update plan for Simpson Park would be considered the same idea. Some branding, I think Councilmember Krupa. This is update City Hemet brand identity and story. So there's, I think, a slight duplicate there. And Mayor, I think you had sort of ideas related to tech and students, which is similar to, is slightly different and probably distinguishable from an incubator, but some similarities there in terms of where it might go. And then these are items that we're planning to work on because you've already directed us to do that. So let's move back to the PowerPoint real quick. And we're going to talk about your budget, which consists of several dots today. And Brenda, now would be the time to distribute the budget items. There's some cash in this, but we have different currencies today. So let's talk about the currencies that we're distributing. The dot exercise is supposed to feel uncomfortable because it really constrains your ability to vote on how many items are considered, let's say, of the greatest importance. And I want to orient you on the exercise that we're going to engage in. Today I'm calling it Air, Water, Chocolate. It's a little different than what we did last year. We could have taken last year's list to a refinement process like this, but this is going to feel, I want to acknowledge that this will feel uncomfortable because each of you will be provided 5 red dots, which we're defining as must-haves. These are of the greatest importance from your perspective. And the beauty of this and the value for us is we want to make sure that when you put together a work plan, that we're understanding what the most important items are. When we have 84 different items, we're kind of turning it over to the staff to to navigate through. And yes, of course, we're going to have to work within the bandwidth in different departments that are working on initiatives. And if we have one department that has 5 different items, we're going to have to pick which one comes first and work through the sequential order. But this exercise is intended to reveal what your highest of high priorities are. And we're defining this air. Air is something we can't live without for very long, right? It's of the highest importance. It's a must-have. And in contrast to that, water, still very important, right? Probably going to make the work plan. This is something that we can live without for a few days, but not forever. It's something that's important. It's a need for the organization. That would be the blue definition. We have 6 blue dots for you. And then 7 chocolate dots. Chocolate is a want. It's valuable, but it's not critical. It's a nice to have, right? And we love chocolate, which is why we picked the brown dots. So the process here is we're going to ask you to place your dots on the charts here on this wall. And we'll meet, if we have any of these items that maybe are needing separation, and I'm looking for Alan, or did Alan leave? Okay. We may need to, we want to make sure that when you put the dot on the yellow, that it goes onto the yellow, not the wall. I believe these are the removable dots, right? We have some that are removable. These are not. These are permanent dots. So once they go on, your vote is recorded. We can't change your vote very easily without, essentially writing over it. We want you to talk to each other. This is similar to last year for 4 of the 5 council members. We encouraged conversations. So collaborate, talk about what you're thinking about. You have control over your dots. And so you may want to work together on how those dots show up on the wall. 5, 6, and 7 different types of dots. When the dots, when you finish the exercise, we're going to want to look at that and have a conversation about what that reveals. You may have differences of opinion over whether something's a red dot or a blue dot, and we may see it, and it may have one blue and one red, and we're going to need to talk about what's the council consensus on. Is that a red or is that going to be a blue? And I think when we see your voting, it will reveal kind of next steps in how we shape this work plan. One thing I do want to mention is, for example, some of Councilmember Kendrick's initial comments about proactive code enforcement. One of the next steps that we will do, if that's an item that is on the list, one of the next steps that we'll do between today and probably 2 meetings from now is begin to develop a metric that measures success. So how do we define that? We want to be able to measure what's our goal. Is it a certain number of cases? Is it a certain qualitative outcome? We need to talk about how do we measure success for all of these ideas. And that will be part of when we bring the full work plan draft back to you at a council meeting. We're also in addition to making sure we still feel comfortable and we're not missing anything. So it's not too late to still add things, but we also want to get it right in terms of how we measure success, and can report out on that at the end of the year. Any questions? Yes. If you would like, yes. This is the time to do it now before we start the voting. Do you have some ideas? Do you have some ideas on consolidating them now? Do we have an extra microphone? Where's that microphone? There we go. Maybe we'll let them. Have them.
Weed abatement and code enforcement, one and the same?
It can be considered that, yes.
Yeah? Okay, together. Okay. So I'm going to put this at the front.
Music, art. Where was the other? There was another.
Yeah, there's more over here, I think.
You know, the branding and art kind of go together, at least with the Valley of the Mastodons. So should we leave 2?
I think art and branding, I think we should treat them separately for now, but
Okay.
I think one does benefit the other. And
We
if
had
hypothetically
another
we had to choose between the two, we'll have a council conversation about it. Ultimately, the council will make the final decision on what gets on the list, on the plan or not. This is an exercise to try to reveal and constrain your options, essentially budget the cost of things as well as the capacity of the organization. But I think what we see on the list looks like things that we can achieve conceptually. So we'll see how your preferences emerge.
Shopping carts, code enforcement?
I think reviewing the ordinance is a unique item that makes sense because we've, in the course of looking at that, we know that the ordinance isn't being used the way it's drafted at the moment.
Malcolm, your public find a wall would go under public art.
It could even be included with that. I don't know where the wall with the locks of the lost loved ones. It could be I don't even mind if it's included with that.
So we have curb appeal and tree planting. Is that kind of the same?
What you think? We just need more trees everywhere, in parks and in our boulevard trees, street
I
trees.
think the curb appeal is sort of a code enforcement effort versus trees, which I would leave separate. And the memorial wall is on that left sheet of paper under A.
This startup business and tech building?
Yeah,
Same?
yeah.
It's, I think the mayor's idea was youth focused, right? Creating an environment where they could descend on the campus, if you will, and
They
You-
both
maybe-
are.
maybe subscription-based.
Yeah, kids and kids, right? Yes?
Okay, then code enforcement is already on here, right? So
Code enforcement, I don't believe, is on the blue, but I know it came through a number of Carol's comments. So they're going to be on the upper left here.
Where did you say Simpson Park was more than once up here?
Simpson Park is on the blue city manager list under D.
So,
And then the introduction of the observatory was something that could be consolidated.
here. I have nowhere to put that one.
yeah, Simpson Park is right here.
Okay.
Well, that took a few off.
Took quite a few off.
Okay, so you are armed with 5 red valuable dots, 6 slightly less valuable dots, and 7 chocolate dots. So if we will hover, the staff will be available to answer any questions. We'll recruit Chief Ariano for any dots that need to go up really high. But now's the fun part. We get to vote.
And we're doing blue and yellow.
We're going to touch on any of these, any of the paper on the wall here. You can vote on. We do want you to talk with each other. We encourage you to strategize like you're on an island and you're trying to win that reality television show. So that type of collaboration we encourage. This should be fun, and you may need to negotiate with your colleagues. I'll offer a red dot if you offer a blue dot. I don't know how that will work, but we encourage that conversation, and we're happy to answer any questions you have while we go through this exercise.
On this sheet, the items in progress from 23-24, those are all going to continue.
Those are our expectation is those are going to continue. The Economic Development Strategic Plan will have a number of items in it, but that's this here. I do think that you could.
I don't want to waste my dots.
Yeah, I think if there's something that, I mean, our expectations we're going to continue to work on these, but and we probably need to revisit this when we come into 2 meetings to talk about these. We will incorporate anything that's ongoing. That's why I want to include CIP, because it does task our staff. It occupies a lot of time to move various CIP type projects forward. I guess this must be the same microphone that was having problems before.
So we're not going to put any dots on B?
If there's council consensus on, did you say B or D?
Yeah,
B.
Yeah, ongoing.
B ongoing. So we have here the Highway 79 analysis. That's going to be ongoing. Stony Mountain should be relatively quickly finished. I don't think you have to vote on Stony Mountain. Palm Communities, I don't think you need to vote on that. The Homeless Encampment Grant, you don't need to vote on that. Fire Station 5, you've already provided direction to us on working on that, so you don't need to vote on that. Drainage, you've already made a decision on that. And the annexation is something that we're going to have to do regardless, is just provide information.
So basically, no.
Yeah, so no.
So we've got these dots on those things.
Yeah, I think everything on here is going to go forward. It has to.
I'm keeping an eye on the staff in case they're trying to sell you red dots.
We're gonna vote on all of them
City Manager.
Yes.
We don't want to dot any of these, because we want them all.
You want them all?
Yeah,
Progress from the prior work plan. Well,
and same with these. Your recommendations.
you like the recommendations?
Yeah.
Oh. Is there consensus that everyone likes the 11?
Where is it at?
Are they in progress at all, or just recommended?
These are,
I was looking for my
these are not in progress. These are concepts. These are in progress, but the Public Works CIP, these are all concepts. But they're going to take staff time, so what we want to do is maybe you can come back to the, well, you have to, it would be helpful for us to know which of those ideas are meaningful. If you like them all, then what I would recommend is budget your 5 dots each, and this is the challenge with the exercise. It's better if I make you, or if I suggest to you that you spend the dots and you consider these options, and that becomes part of the work plan. These aren't necessarily easy lifts. This is probably a workshop and a lot of analysis, and a lot of engagement on some of the shovel-ready concepts. We need to do some stakeholder engagement. And then these,
three basically go together. They all deal with fire.
yes, I think that the training facility can be a one-off a little bit. We can, probably not too expensive to do, and just get some get some design professional that would, the person that would design this training facility would be different than someone analyzing where we should put our next fire station and how we should augment stations. So that's a little bit different.
I like Carol's policy on returning phone calls and stuff. I think customer service is important. We all know it's a dying animal.
It's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Customer service is paramount. We
So
get
I'm gonna
really
put a red one
proud.
on there.
That's gonna fall under here, huh? What they're putting their thoughts on right now is identity.
No, that's like advertising and putting out what Hemet has to offer, like the parks, recreation, trails, skate park.
Red.
Red.
Can I buy your red dots?
What do you want to borrow his for? You don't want to put it all over the wall.
These are,
I think this is the one that the streets one can tie to the streets over there. Is everyone comfortable with?
Yeah.
could the private streets be included in that, to look at what we can do on private streets? Noah?
I think it's going to be a little bit different. I would.
Public safety.
It is. I would recommend you keep that separate for now, and maybe a different. You consider whether it's a red, blue, or chocolate.
She was asking if private streets should go with regular public streets.
No, I mean, that's, addressing that is a completely different
Yeah,
task.
so we'll leave it separate. There's a fire one there too. That's on the blue over here.
Yeah, the reduced fire times is the same as this over here.
Yeah.
Let me take that.
that one down.
One dog park, so we could probably use part, specialized park funding for the second dog park. Or we could just put animal toys in Fulton Park.
Is that one on Costa? Yeah.
So you put it as a one?
I have lots of arguments from people in the public, you can use your money better than that. It's like, yeah, it's designated for dog parks. That was when Solange, she used to beat me up every time she saw me about the dog park.
She wanted a dog park.
No, she didn't.
Oh.
City could find better uses of funding
Oh, I see.
than a dog park.
he said like this before.
I did.
So he likes the idea of the horses.
Even if we start with the sheriff's department has a posse, which is volunteer, but or something.
You think that's high priority or high prior or medium? What would you say? I mean, you've got a lot of the technological tools. So now you just need a bicycle crew or a horse crew that can get into smaller areas.
I'm gonna work on the bicycle for sure. Rebranding bikes.
On the staffing, do you recommend 4 days a week or 5 days a week? Because 5 would require
Free for events and whatnot.
negotiating that with every department.
And they're a good PR thing.
Yeah, we need to introduce it in the compensation discussion.
So the chief said they're gonna have 3 electric bikes, but he really likes the idea of the equines. So he said plus they're good for PR and stuff too.
You don't want a youth council?
Huh?
You don't want a youth council?
What do you say, I know? I put it as choose. Okay, okay.
So you-
But it's a lower priority.
Lower priority. It doesn't mean it goes down. I'd rather see that there's
I do have a preference. California has the highest unemployment rate in the nation right now. We need better jobs, we need people who want the jobs.
My photos of senators low, kind of conservative, 2%. Let's count these community requests over here too.
Yeah. I want, where's the lighting one, Linda? I get complaints right here. Yeah, I get complaints on it, yeah, I'm gonna put a red one on there.
An infill with what they did in Sierra Don that are so inexpensive.
You guys still have all these other blue spots as well, so
Yeah.
don't forget about that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'd like to see them do? A lot of businesses and some military business where you have like,
Video is most
a
important
9-day
to
work
me.
week, and you get every other Friday off.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
That's what I was on the county. And then I was 5 days a week when I started here, and I went to and I worked 9-hour days, Monday through Thursday, and then I worked on it.
Yeah, when I was at General Atomics, we did 9 days and we had every other Friday off. It was good. I'm gonna put a brown on it.
You wanna do the observatory?
You guys, I think Simpson Center is very important. We put money to that and nothing's happening. I think that's a big priority to get that up and running. gonna put one of my red ones there.
What, did you say Simpson Center or Simpson Park?
Simpson Center management.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of in process.
Yeah, but, kind of, yeah, but it's not there yet, so. Okay, now all I've got is I wants. My dad used to say my mom had the I wants. She didn't need things, but she wanted them. He's like, oh no, she's got the I wants again.
Do we have to use all our dots?
It must, you said you could go forever. You know, you might as well use them all.
Because I don't want to say no to some of these.
Is there a question about whether you need to use all your dots?
Yeah.
They're available for sale. But no, you're welcome to use all of your dots. We encourage you
I don't
to.
want to.
Well, if you don't, that's okay.
Because I don't want to say no to a lot of these things. That's all I've got left.
But the colors really do help us understand the preferences.
Ooh, we got a red one.
I'm not using this. It is. It really is. No, I don't like chocolate at all, but I don't want to mix any of these things around. Quite honestly, they're all important.
I think this, the economic development was over here too, wasn't it?
Well, this is the E EDSP.
This is in motion already. What you're going to have are probably 20 different initiatives that you'll give us direction on, and we'll go through a prioritization process on that. Some things will come off the list, others will be added, and then you'll lock in on what is our plan, and then we send in the work.
Thank you. Shame me into it, right?
Okay. Let's talk about your feelings during the exercise. That feel? What is your observation of the exercise and the outcomes? I think we have some obvious feedback on high priorities, and then a couple of situations where there may be a difference between a must-have or a chocolate. I see a couple of those up there, but what was your experience through the entire exercise?
Yeah.
You were on a budget, right? Yes. We want the sense is you wanted to do all of it, right? I mean, really, in a perfect world, we can do all of it, and this is an exercise to really help us focus. And we believe at the staff level that when we can grow the focus, we're going to be able to get them done a little faster, rather than have, let's say 84 items and trying to do all of them and move them all forward, having a narrower focus. But I do think that a lot of the themes that I see pulling out here is beautification, making sure that the town continues to look better for investment, and to push, really build on the work and investments that have already been made. But any other feedback on the exercise? And or your observations of what's landed here? I think we do need to probe a couple of these.
It looks like you learned from the last time we did this, so you couldn't let us put a bunch of stuff above the line.
Yeah, we're still not going to do chili cook-off in the park.
But I do think that if we focused on number 1 on E, that those people could help us fund a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to be budget. So one of the next steps also will be for us to sort of build out what the cost of these initiatives are. Some of it's design work with an architect. Some of it's, a contract with a lobbyist that would likely be a retainer of X number of dollars. And we're going to need to weave all of that together in the budget process. Other comments about the exercise?
I just have a comment on D. I know there's a lot of shovel-ready things here, and I think that's paramount to us getting grants. And we have been very weak in years past in former management. And we need to get on board with all this free, every person I talk to in the political realm, higher up than us, they're like, there's so much free money out there. We need to get some of that free money. And if we have those plans in place, once we get the plan, all we have to do is apply.
This is the challenge that I've witnessed over my career. Cities that are smaller, and in many ways we are a small city because of the limited dollars that we have that are not flowing to the remaining dollars that flow to the other departments besides the public safety departments. We're a very lean organization. And when cities are lean, they have a difficult time taking the time to plan ahead and put some of these projects, shovel-ready projects, on the table. But if we take the time to do that, then we're much more competitive when it comes time for funding requests. Yes, sir, Mayor.
I'm not sure what the police and what the firefighters are doing to get grants, but it seems like they're getting grants all the time. What are they doing different than the city? Because we're not getting the grants like they are. At least I don't think we are.
Well, we have to have
Here. It's off. You need to turn it on.
Our biggest need probably is roads, and so I think it's fair to say we've been fairly successful on the road front. Just got another $1.7 million from Supervisor Gutierrez. I think we have to look at it in a holistic way. A lot of our work plan this year, 84 different items, falls on the 21% side of the budget, so we don't have as many people. For the police department and the fire department, we have good stories to tell that create opportunities for grants. So from a retail theft perspective, we took that on aggressively, but we also had a story to tell. So we've experimented with different models. We decided to move away from California Consulting in December. Didn't feel like the company was providing us the necessary added value. We've gone back to a model where we'll pick as the grant comes in, we'll pick one of those companies, including California Consulting, to help us with a grant opportunity. But I think we've had some pretty good success across the board this year.
Every time
And there's
I
more,
hear-
right? That's why the council is interested in looking for ways to open doors to legislators in Sacramento and in DC.
Every time I hear we get a grant, it's always from District 5 Supervisor Gutierrez. Why aren't we getting grants from Dr. Corey Jackson, Dr. Ruiz, Ochoa Bogue? Aren't they capable of giving grants? Or
Most of the grants are probably not going to come from them. Most of the time, they're going to come from state and federal programs as opposed to individuals. But at the federal level, earmarks are something that they call them something different today. They're basically community benefit projects, and these shovel-ready ideas here are exactly what those opportunities present for us. So when we prepare something, we'll be able to take the observatory or whatever the idea is to them at a federal level and likely have some increased success. When we have more staff capacity, we can also take more time to probe the folks that manage grants in Sacramento and in DC about, hey, I worked for a incredible manager who was in the waste management recycling space years ago, and what I learned was he developed a relationship, a friendship and an acquaintance with someone in Sacramento. And each spring before they developed their program, the question became, we would set up a meeting to talk and say, well, what is the state looking for? What type of programs? Would this fit? Would that fit? We peppered that person who had influence over the selection process, what the answer was going to be. And we would shape our project to align with whatever the state's objectives were with the program. So some of it's time and capacity as well. But I hear you. Just a couple things to get some feedback on. If I see a red and a brown together, update the city's shopping cart ordinance. There's a must-have and 2 chocolates on that one. Feels like a fairly easy lift for us, and I think we feel like we need that anyway. Looking at code enforcement, it's something that we've talked about internally this year. Here's one with all 3 colors. This is put out the good news on social media. And then I think we have some voting over here on brand and identity that was a must-have and a high level of importance. Valley of the Mastodons was a red and a brown, so that can fall under the art umbrella. Here's a red and a brown, the CIP projects. And then I want to compliment the Mayor Pro Tem for stretching her dot. If you notice, this brown dot on between 4 and 5, she figured out a way to double the value of that dot. Congratulations, triple. This includes all of the shovel readies. Yeah. All right. Staff, any feedback on what you see? Just interested in your thoughts on the exercise and what you see revealed through the dot exercise. And if you have any questions or clarifications, this would be a time to ask those questions. And I'm looking for the staff that aren't shy to chat, so I'll run to you with a microphone. Who would like to share?
The comment is on the full staff 5 days a week. We also experience how hard it is for us to collectively work together as a group because we do have vacancies on Mondays and Fridays, so it's hard for us to get things done. But we were more leaning towards going back through Monday through Thursday shift again, to where we're all there and all present that can work together. So that's just a comment.
If I can make a comment to that, a lot of corporations and military even, they go to the 9-day work hour and then they have every other Friday off. And that seems to work really well for a lot of different entities.
That would be the 980 schedule. And with the schedule, if we wanted to move from a 410 schedule, which is the negotiated schedule today, it would require us to bargain, meet and confer and bargain with every bargaining group to move from the 410 to something different. So that can be a heavy lift, but it does require meet and confer. We cannot change the policy without meeting and conferring on that topic.
As a staff member, I loved 410s when I worked here, but in this role, I saw, and I'm guilty of it, is you don't get 10 hours of productivity. You might get 7 or 8 hours of productivity. So as much as I love 410s as a staff member, you're not getting as much work as you would normally. And I know there's issues with trying to change that, but again, it's our customers that are feeling this, and that's where we get the complaints that basically they can only get service 3 days a week, which is problematic.
I think one of the other constraints here, just an observation, right? 21% of our budget works under a 410 schedule. The public safety, 79% of our budget works under their own schedule for staffing. So what we're talking about is the lean part of our organization. Trying to cover Mondays and Fridays is hard for some small departments. So for example, in the city clerk's office, 3 people, 2 work Monday through Thursday, and another works Tuesday to Friday to try to provide that coverage. But that means that we're really only in the same room in the office 3 days a week. And as someone that worked a 980 schedule at times where my city tried to stretch that 980 to a 5-day-a-week schedule, we had some people that worked opposite Fridays and Mondays. And my job was to work with multiple departments on tasks. I literally could only schedule meetings Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And that feels a little bit like what we're experiencing here. It's limiting our productivity when we're focused on only Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I think it is an issue, and perhaps we can talk more about that in the context of the bargaining.
It could be an issue with just maybe cross-training staff, because what I'm hearing is someone will come in on a Monday or Friday and they'll be told that staff member's not here and nobody else can help you. I don't believe that. You can take information down, you can follow up. I think that our staff could do better at trying to help customers on those days when the staff member they're looking for isn't there. I mean, it happens, but I think that we could do better to help reduce kind of the complaints that we receive about, not being able to get customer service 5 days a week.
Okay. Thanks for, Tiffany, thanks for addressing that, and Councilmember Kendrick for considering that today for our discussion, because it's helpful feedback. Any other comments from staff, clarifications, observations before we move to the next steps? Okay. Let's talk next steps. We'll go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so one of the things that we'll plan to continue to do is, if it's working for you, quarterly reporting feels like a good pace. There's different ways that we can report progress. I've also included bars sometimes where there may be it's a subjective exercise, but we could install a progress chart, and rather than see it complete or not complete, right? You can see some progress in a visual way where we sort of estimate the degree of percentage completion, and we can do that in kind of a bar graph. So that's a concept, but we can talk more about that. But our plan, unless you provide different feedback, would be to continue to bring you quarterly updates on progress on strategic plan items. Okay. And then for next steps, we're going to summarize this workshop. We'll inventory all the items that we have here on the accomplishments. We're taking photographs. I know I saw staff were taking photographs of all of this. We're going to turn this into a table that we'll bring to you most likely in about a month after we've put together some additional measurement tools and thought about which department to assign tasks to, and then we'll probably have we will have a policy conversation about if something's a wobbler between a red and a blue. What I'm planning to do is color code these for you. So we might take a guess at, this looks like something that if it's a wobbler, we may make an educated choice on it's going to be a red. We think we can fit it into the plan and get it done. And then share with you any concerns we have about something that might be, or an area where we don't really feel like we have clarity. But we will bring you a draft for you to react to at a meeting in about 2 meetings. So the challenge sometimes is when we had our last council meeting on Tuesday last week, we had 5 work days until today. Today's the 5th day since that meeting on the 410 folks that are working on the agenda. And today we're planning to publish the agenda for next Tuesday today. So that's our afternoon. But we'll bring these back in about a month. And then we'll be identifying the cost and also maybe the degree of difficulty, but certainly any costs that are associated with the line items, we'll be working to incorporate that into our draft budget so that we can have that conversation as part of the budget development process. And so now we're at the wrap-up stage. I want to thank all of our staff, including our public works staff and IT staff who've helped put together the room today. City manager's office did a lot of work. Thank you everyone for your work there, city clerk as well. So I want to acknowledge everyone's help there. My only closing comments are I feel like this was an exercise that gave us some good clarity from you and gave us some prioritization that is really helpful. It felt like it went as planned, and I'm excited to see when we take this and turn it into a spreadsheet, what does that look like? I think that will be revealing, but I want to open it up to others that have any comments or observations of this before we adjourn. Any council comments, Mayor?
I like it. I think it's good. I think, you know, you may think of something and then others may have great ideas that you had never thought of, you know. So, you know, each person has their own little niche, I think. You know, some of them are artsy, some of them are youth-oriented, some are like, you know, infrastructure. So it's good to have a well-rounded viewpoint of everybody. And, you know, with staff here, that's great, you know, because they can kind of guide us and tell us what's doable and what's not and that. So I think it's great that we do this. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
What I would like to know is if the staff believes in the strategic plan, not from a we have to do what the council says, but do they like really believe in it, and do they see it as a positive direction for the city, something that they can buy in as because they're coming to work and serving the community in that capacity. So that's like something that's always burning to know what the staff realistically thinks about it.
And you're speaking to everybody in the organization, not just the directors, right?
Yes.
So we have directors here and managers who are happy to answer that question. But I would also say that I've tried to do quarterly updates via Zoom or in person. We're going to do our first in-person one. Is it next week, Brenda? Next week on the 10th or so at the Simpson Center. And we do 2 so that people can leave City Hall and have someone cover while they go away. And then we do one at 10 and we do one at 2. But it's an opportunity to make sure that the entire organization understands what the work plan is. It is council directed, so we take policy direction from you, and it's our job to implement your policy direction. So we share that policy direction with the staff, and so I'm hopeful that approach helps raise awareness of that. We've also added all of our staff to our city updates. So when we do a city update every 2 weeks, the digital newsletter, we send that out to our staff so that they see what's happening as well. That's a new addition that we've started.
But more than as a council direction, do they see our vision as like something that makes them feel good? Like, I'm making a difference because of this, something that it's not like, well, we got to do this because this is, there'll be a different council the next year or whatever. Is it something that they're thinking, I'm making a difference in this community?
Well, we still have an employee survey to do this year, so we can add a question on that very topic. Yep. Are you aware of the city's strategic plan? Do you have buy-in, so to speak, on that strategic plan? We can ask some questions in that space.
I have one thing before we leave. I know this is a little late, but I do have a request for someone to speak, and I'd like to have that person speak. Dana Benjamin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the city manager, the city attorney, the city clerk, our mayor, and every one of the council members here. This was so fun and exciting. Like, I want to tell everyone from the community to come out and just witness the process that takes place to make things happen here. Sometimes it feels like nothing's going on, but this is amazing. Thank you very much. So our mayor called me out on that homeless encampment. The offer I made him earlier, and I did want to double down on that. I have lived in the city of Hemet off and on, but more on, since 1990. I've never been homeless, but I do understand what the homeless go through. I want to offer them dignity and respect, and also give them the opportunity to utilize some of their skills potentially. So I own almost 5 acres, and my neighbor has almost 10 acres, where maybe only like 8 of them, well, 7 to 8 would be able to be utilized, because we also have a lake on our property, and there's a bridge there that was built by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so together with the Green Coalition, we may be also able to build some sort of community garden out there, since we do have access to the water, and that would give the individuals something to do while they're there. And to go along with Miss Jackie Peterson, or Mrs., I don't know which one it is, we can potentially get this funded through grants. So I guess we request to propose, and who would we move forward with on that? All right, thank you.
Thank you. I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you. We'll be in contact.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it. Thank you, sir. So we're closing up? No more?
We can go ahead and adjourn whenever you're ready.
Where'd it go? Here we go. Here we go. I want to thank everyone for their presentations and for everything we've gone through so far. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned to the next city council meeting on April 9th, 2024. Thank you for joining us today.